does this count as face to face?
I'm not sure. Wait, I don't even have you like real time on my screen, so I can just look at the delayed face version.
Wait, did I not? Here, let me pull it up real time, so this is like a more genuine experience. Wait, why is it not? Oh, because you can't see it. It is on Discord. If you pull up this, if you have like an extra monitor or space to pull it up, it is on Discord. You'll be able to see it in real time, so you don't have to watch.
Yeah. I just had to swap to your face.
There you go. Well, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Yeah. I was good just got home from work myself and just got everything ready. I like prepared everything before I left. I had like lights set up, camera turned on, tweets written, everything, hopefully, so it would go as smooth as possible. So
you just come and jump straight in.
Basically, yeah. Like I set everything up. I just sat down and I got myself a beer and I was like, we're good to go. So everything's good and set up here. And we got a few people too. Hey, Lycum, how's it going? And Joby, thanks for joining. And I'm sure more people kind of join in as we go too. My dudes. And Haley's here. Hello. I'm sure you got a nice crowd over there as well too. So it's kind of nice to have twice the amount of people here, I'm sure.
Yeah, we have like there's like 19 people in my stream at the moment. So.
Oh wow.
Which is surprising because I haven't been live for like 3 weeks or 2 weeks.
Everyone missed you.
Yeah.
Were you out hiking again? Backpacking?
We were at my the last week of the vacation. We were at my family cabin in the mountains. So we did like. Well, my wife and I heavily abused like the grandparent babysitters. So we got to do a lot of stuff. We got to go whitewater rafting and canyoning, and we went hiking twice, as someone has already seen on Twitter. So that was really nice.
It's quite an adventure rap sheet right there.
Yeah, it was like my wife figured out that she needed to get some things off her bucket list. Apparently, that was
okay.
So what we had to do. So I'm showing some pictures on stream for those of you who don't follow me on Twitter. This is like this is the Norway nature content that I know that I'm famous for. No, not famous for, but this is the good stuff.
Oh, you did like the wire lines like that, where you like traverse the wires.
Yeah. So that was fun. It's a lot of fun.
What like are you in like south? That looks like you're in somewhere near a fjord there. I don't know if you live near a fjord or if you just have to travel to go to it.
Oh, this is quite far. This is like near our cabin, so it's like 5 hours to our cabin and then another 1.5 hours over here.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I went to Norway one time, 2013, some years back, and went to the Lysefjord, and I loved it. It was amazing. Really, really beautiful.
I've never been to Lysefjorden, actually. Never been there. I really want to go
to how do you pronounce it? Lysefjord?
Lysefjorden.
Oh, I was totally not even close. I was even close, man.
No, that's how it is. Like English speakers, they can't pronounce Norwegian.
Yes,
that's like impossible.
The road signs were daunting. It was like 17-letter words. It's like I'm looking at a map. It's like I don't know, man. I think there's some letters in there that are the same, but it's so different. What was the other one that was this word right here? I'm gonna throw it up on the overlay for people here in chat to see. This word right here is apparently pronounced. I'm sure, Lazy, you can correct me on this. Shurag?
Yeah, Sharag.
It's Sharag. Would not have guessed that. It's got a K and a J back to back, but it's pronounced Sharag.
Yeah, the K J sound in Norwegian. I mean, it's hard for even. That's one of the ones that anyone who's like moves to Norway and learns Norwegian and doesn't have it as their first language. They can never get that sound correct. They end up pronouncing it like shh, but it's not shh. It's more of it doesn't start with an S sound, but it's like something that's, I think, almost unique to the Norwegian language.
That is one of those things too. And like I have a friend from Finland, different country obviously, but in the region. And she would try to get me to pronounce words, and I pronounce them like what I heard, and she would say it again and again, and I would try to pronounce it. And every time she's like, no, it's just like slightly off. And I was like, it's like I can't even hear it. It's like your ears are tuned differently than mine. Like, I was doing the best I could to emulate the sound. She was like, no, it's you're saying it wrong. I was like, I give up. I give up. I can't do this. It's too hard. So definitely a daunting language, but a beautiful country. Very, very, very beautiful country.
Yeah.
Love my time there, and everyone's very friendly. Like it's like a country of, I describe it as a country of introverts. Like everyone's very friendly, but they're very like distant. Like,
Yeah.
they're very give you space and everything. So I enjoyed that actually. I kind of felt like I fit in there a little bit.
There's the meme about like taking the bus in Norway, where like there on every two-seater there's one person sitting on one of the seats, and the other one is free, and you have a picture of a full bus like that, and it says like, oh fuck, there's no room for me. Like the Norwegian response to getting on that. Oh no, the bus is full.
Yeah.
You're never gonna
awesome.
sit down next to someone, and like I've been to. It's so weird to be in America because I've been to the U.S. a couple of times. I'm like, just like, because there it's like normal to just have a chat with a stranger if you end up, or it can be at least in certain like situations. And yeah, how are you doing? I'm fine. You're not actually supposed to like have any real conversation necessarily, but at least like answer. And that would just never happen on the streets of Norway. That would be considered probably rude or weird. The only people I see doing that is like drug addicts or really old people.
Yeah, that's funny. I do appreciate the bus thing though, because anytime I have to use like public transportation, which isn't often because I live out in the country basically, but anytime I do have to use public transportation and you're like on a bus and someone sits next to you, I'm always just like, oh God, like I don't know what it is. I want my space sometimes. So yeah, I appreciate that. Well, we better get started here.
Yeah.
Welcome everyone who's joining in, and Lazy, thanks so much for joining. Just real fast, in case anyone's joining for the first time or watching this later on in VOD or YouTube, this is called Trade Chat. It's just a weekly segment where myself and our gold maker sit down and just discuss what's going on for the week and just kind of have a nice casual discussion, topical discussion on a few things, and that's what we're doing. So Lazy, of course, is nice to have you, and I'm actually really honored to have you. I'm excited that you're joining in on this because I've been learning a ton from you for since I started this more than a year ago. Like I think more than anybody else, I have learned from you and your content. So it's been really, really helpful for me. So I'm definitely honored to have you here. And thank you.
I mean, I'm honored to hear you say that because you've taken, if you've been learning from me, then you've definitely surpassed the mastery. I mean, you're much richer than I am.
This is like when Darth Vader killed Obi-Wan, that kind of
right?
thing.
I mean, that's how it should be, because I'm the lazy gold maker. I'm not the hardworking gold maker. You're so much more hardworking as a gold maker than me. So if you didn't have better results, it would be a little bit sad. We can maybe get into that, but like, I like the conceptual parts. I really love like figuring out the market and then proving that an approach works, and then once I've done that, I start getting bored. I don't enjoy like the daily grind of eking every last bit of gold you can out of any given market. So that's how it is. But I mean, I'm happy. I've been doing this for a long time now.
Yeah, you have been actually. One of the things I was kind of curious about, and I saw it, you on your website, you have kind of a little mention of that, but you've been making gold for a while, like in some way or another, like with the auction house, like going quite a ways back, right?
Yeah. I was thinking about that like just earlier today, because like, I mean, I've been playing WoW since vanilla. I think I started around like the original Blackwing Lair patch ish. And I learned my first gold making method in TBC. That's when I learned the first, like, from one of my real life friends. He was doing the Vision Dust shuffle at the time, which you can still do in TBC Classics. That was like super nostalgic for me, the exact same shuffle. But he'd used that to literally make thousands of gold, and I was just like, wait, you can be rich in this game? I didn't think I'd ever afford, like, I didn't afford epic flying until like long into Wrath of the Lich King. But yeah, and then in Wrath I started going bigger with glyphs at the time, which is just like printing gold using Quick Auctions 3 to post your glyphs, which is essentially the same functionality as TSM as far as like making rules and posting it. Of course, just based on hard-coded gold values at the time.
There was no like price sources or values or anything like that.
No. And then I've played every expansion a little bit, and I I got heavy into gold making in Mists. I think that was the first time I played Cataclysm for a very short while, and then I just went ham in Mists and gold making a little bit. Absolutely loved Professions back in Mist. That was super fun. I played for the later parts of Mist, and then I played like 1 month of Warlord of Draenor, quit instantly because Professions were super boring. Everything was just like BOP materials that were time gated by your garrison.
Daily cooldowns and stuff.
Just daily cooldowns. I was just like, there's nothing to do here, and I didn't do anything else in game at the time, so I just quit.
Yeah.
And then I came back.
And you played Warlords about the exact same amount of time. I think I played it a month. I wasn't gold mate. I just leveled and then I was like, okay, I guess I'm done.
Yeah.
So
that was it.
And then what next?
And then Legion, that was when I came back, and that's when I started the Lazy Goldmaker as well. Like quite short while after Legion, I started playing around the pre-patch again, and I decided that I want to get back into the game. I started raiding again, and just going full force into gold making. And because I realized that was something I've been good at in the past, and there's like all of the people that I had read, and because I read a lot of gold making blogs around the Mists of Pandaria time, I was reading a lot of gold making content to learn from the people who were at the top of the game then. Then when I came back, there wasn't much content, so I was like, maybe I should make some. I mean,
yeah,
I was stupid enough to think I was good at it. And then
well,
I started
with you're pretty good at it.
Started with the basics for me, which is the jewel crafting. It used to be my staple. Prospecting, and I made some spreadsheets and shared those on the WoW Economy Reddit, and just went from there. And I made a lot of gold in Legion. Legion was a really good expansion for gold making. Just absolutely bonkers with the inflation, and kept going.
That's true.
I quit raiding during Legion, though, because I had my first daughter. That was sad. And then I played a lot of...
I mean, it's happy that you had your first daughter, though.
I mean, yeah. But yeah, obviously. I have my second now. Now I have 2 kids, and I'm back to raiding.
Yeah. I was thinking about that earlier, too, because we were talking about, like, the difference of, like... Well, we'll talk about it a little bit more, but I was going to say the difference is... I don't have kids and you do. more than anything, I bet for the difference, whatever differences are perceived in gold making, is you have children and I do not. So
yeah, but I also I've for a lot of BFA I played WoW, and the only thing I really did in the game was gold making, and then I started playing Classic with a bunch of real life friends who came back to the game, with a bunch of the people that I played with back in actual vanilla.
That's cool.
I joined a Norwegian guild that was like really good camaraderie, and I started raiding again in Classic because I realized that you can actually do that even while you have kids, as long as it's not too often. And then I realized that I really, really, really enjoyed the PvE side of WoW. I find that so fun, and I realized that my motivation just went through the roof after being rock bottom for most of BFA, really, for anything outside of gold making, and my motivation just got a lot higher. For a long time I was super motivated by Classic, so now I'm in then for Shadowlands I realized that I want to raid in retail again, and I have been since the launch of Shadowlands, so I've spent a lot of time actually keeping my main up to date, and even mythic raiding at the moment, which is a lot of fun, and I'm really glad, but that's obviously going to eat into my profits.
Exactly, yeah. I don't do any of that. I do kind of miss it and think sometimes oh, it'd be cool to do that, but then I'm so single track mind right now. I just I didn't. I once they announced that we needed renown, for example, for 9.1. I was like, oh, I was supposed to get that up. It was I was at my main maybe had 20 something from doing callings. And I had so many kids, but anyways, I just nothing, totally single track where. And
then you realize you have to farm the renown anyway for vestiges.
Yeah, it was oh man, crap! Dang, wish I had known that sooner. So and now I've already let myself go again, a couple weeks ago. As soon as I got the vestige of origin, I was I'm done with this renown thing, and I'm sure that'll come back to bite me when 9.2 approaches. Where I was crap, I need that again. Oh no. So. I
mean, just wait for the patch. It was much faster to grind after the patch anyway, wasn't it?
It's probably, with the catch-up mechanics and stuff, I think it probably was a long way, all around better, but it was a serious crunch. I probably spent less time overall, but the crunch was real for those 2 weeks.
Oh, yeah.
Once I found that news out, so, yeah. Wow, okay, so you have quite a a robust history there. I mean, you've been goal making for everything except for, in a little way, everything except for Classic, the original, or vanilla, I should say.
Yeah.
But even Classic, and are you still actively playing TBC Classic?
No, not much.
Not much.
I don't really have time to do both variants, and it was like once I got Epic Flying and got all my recipes for jewel crafting, and I felt like I'd beaten TBC, and I don't really enjoy the PV content in Classic because it's just not engaging enough. Like the rotations are too easy, raids are too simple. Like you have, if you want to challenge yourself, you need to go for speed runs or parses or something. But even then, it's like just not as rewarding as I find raiding in retail. Wow.
Yeah, I think a lot of people do, like, you hear people criticize often retail and put the original expansions up on a pedestal, but the complexity and the quality of the raids and in some cases, not all, but in some cases even the quality of the systems have improved a lot. They have improved a lot, and I think, like, I played the tiniest bit of Classic, but you go and play it, and it's kind of it's refreshing because you go and play it and you realize, like, wow, this game's come a long way. It really has, as far as just, user friendliness, enjoyability, at least from my perspective. Of course, everyone's going to have a different opinion. It's very subjective. But yeah, I do. I played a little bit of Classic and I haven't gone back since. I kind of want to, just because I heard TBC was incredible with professions, right? And that was kind of my main thing, is that the professions were so good. But I do wonder, especially what's going on with legendaries, if Shadowlands will kind of take that title as like being the crazy profession, gold making expansion.
Yeah, I think it's one of the more extreme ones, definitely. Shadowlands. I think TBC and Classic, or at least for Classic, a lot of the things that people enjoy, or that some of the diehard Classic fans enjoy about Classic, are things that just aren't a thing anymore. In WoW, like in the modern version of WoW, they've just gone away from like being any sort of a meaningful open world game, for instance, or being part of a world. I don't think that really exists anymore. So if that's what you're looking for from an MMO, then obviously you're gonna hate retail WoW, because it's all of the fun things to do in retail WoW are instanced pretty much. There's no like feeling like, oh, I'm actually stuck on this continent and that's gonna take me a while to get to the other one, because this is an actual world that I'm trying to traverse, instead of just like a series of checkpoints, it feels more like in retail WoW. So for the people who just really looking for that sort of like immersion, I think that doesn't exist as much anymore in WoW. But I mean, that started going downhill when they added flying, and transportation just got way easier. So TBC is like the first decline. So like the most diehard Classic WoW Classic fan in my Classic guild, he quit for TBC because that's when the game started going downhill. In his mind, because he cared about the open world aspects, right? That's what he enjoyed, and the social aspects of a server. And there's a lot of like fun drama during Classic around that, like the Gates of Ankara event and stuff like that. And it would be cool to see some of that back. But as far as like making moment-to-moment gameplay more fun, it's a lot more fun to play a modern class instead of just like clicking one button for damage.
Yeah, the hunter scroll wheel macro, right? For just one rotation.
Not even a macro, just like Shadow Bolt. TBC Warlock. It's like, keep immolate up, click Shadow Bolt. That's it.
I also rolled lock for TBC Classic. So yeah, no, it's very, very true, and it's different for everybody. It's funny because I came from Final Fantasy 11, which was just ridiculously hard before WoW. And it's one of those games where you had to grind hours and hours of just like we grew up. Did you ever play Final Fantasy 11?
No.
It was stupid. I mean, like, I love it. I have the fondest memories, but it was heinously, like, talking about not respecting the player's time. Like, to level, there was no questing, there was no story content. You would group up. You would literally have to, like, in the public channel, like, shout for a group, like, oh, Black Mage looking for a party, Black Mage looking for a party, for sometimes like hours before it wasn't a high demand class but eventually I'd get an invite. You'd have to go to some like corner of a leveling zone, we call them, We would find little corners to hide in, our groups of 5, and then someone would run and aggro a mob and bring it back to the group, and then you'd kill it, and it would take like 5 minutes to kill it. And it would be just like a sheep, like literally a sheep. It would take 5 minutes to get down, and then you get like 1% of a level and be like, okay, let's do that 99 more times and we'll level up. And that was like the teens. You had to get up to like 60. That was literally what it was like. And if you died, you would lose 10% of a level, which was sometimes like an hour of work or something. And I was just, it was ridiculous. So when I came to WoW, I was just like, wow, this is so convenient. I really like this. So I definitely look back and remember, you know, it forces you to coordinate and to make more, you know, social bonds and connections to get through really hard stuff, especially when there's not all these queuing and dungeon finder tools. So the social aspect definitely falls, but man, there's some tedious parts of that game. And so I'm not one to miss too much. I look back on nostalgia, my time spent there, but I enjoy, especially these days, we're all just, I think, so much more as we've gotten older, more limited in time. And so I appreciate the convenience factors that I without them, I wouldn't have the time to play probably.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been nice. Well, coming back to the topic of the economy, actually I have a question. I put this in the notes for you here. I've always wondered, because you're lazy, you're a smart man. It's one thing I've come to really appreciate about you. You know your stuff, and you bust out economic principles sometimes and include it in your blog or your podcast. Fantastic podcast, by the way. If you guys don't listen to the World of Goldcraft, you totally should. It's and fantastic. You will learn so much from listening to that. But you'll bust out these terms sometimes where I have to like go find them. They're not like introductory economics terms, but almost like the stuff that you'd probably find in the middle of like a college economics textbook.
Yeah.
So do you have like a background in economics, or is this kind of like a passion project of yours?
I have a master's degree in industrial economics. So that's
okay, that explains it.
So that's like it's like obviously business focused economics, and then there's half the subjects are it's a mix between engineering and economics. It's like you know enough about engineering to be more effective in technology business. That's the idea behind the study. We need people who can understand engineers and economists. So you're
like the blend between the two.
And obviously, and it's structured so you have like the engineering stuff. Most of the engineering stuff is on the intro level or in the first 2.5 years, and then the last 2.5 years are mostly economics focused. Okay. So I do have a good bit of university level economics in my background. So obviously I try to utilize that when I can.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think do you feel like it's been a huge advantage to you to have that knowledge? Like you've been able to apply a lot of those economic principles and laws to what you do in the game?
It's hard to say, because I started gold making way before I started studying economics or studying any of it. I think it's more useful in like recognizing things you have sort of there's a Norwegian idiom for this. It just doesn't translate well to English, but you have all of the mental hooks to hang your knowledge on. Like you have the concepts, and then when you or see them, or it's a lot easier to recognize a lot of the patterns that you've learned about in school, or to see some of them play out, particularly from like the subject like microeconomics, which is probably like the most relevant one, because overall like the WoW economy is super simple compared to any real world economic problem. Like the WoW economy, or most of the concepts you'll face are a lot simpler, because like when you make a rank 6 legendary, you go make a rank 6 legendary, and it takes the exact same amount of time and whatever. So there's like whole textbooks worth of stuff that's just like never going to be relevant, because everyone can produce the same thing at the exact same cost pretty much. But there's definitely a lot of like understanding like what competitive strategies and why certain things can make sense, and just like having a lot of the stuff that goes into like how crowds on average respond to stuff. Like how are people what's gonna happen if you lower the price on something? And obviously there's some points where I disagree with conventional gold making wisdom, which I've talked about and written about a lot on large undercuts. Large undercuts make a lot of sense, and if you think that they're stupid, then you have some maturing to do until you truly understand like why people make the choices they do.
That's very good point. I love that. I didn't think I told you on that one. That was a really good one. The price elasticity one, which is though you mentioned the conventional like never undercut, never lower the price, and it's like, well, lower the price, you might actually find a much better, healthier state of that market where things are just moving better, and maybe you're making smaller margins, but you're gonna sell such a larger volume that you're gonna do better, and you're gonna scare away competition sometimes too. On top of that, but yeah, I really enjoyed that. So yeah, I definitely appreciate how you're able to use that. It makes a lot of sense now. I've always felt like there was something there. I remember like this was like a year ago before I was doing any sort of content. I came on your stream and I was like, "What do you do?" And you told me something like, "I'm a consultant," and I was like, "But what do you do?" Like, I don't understand.
I don't do anything really directly related to that, but yeah. But default name in my chat is like disagrees with me here. It says that real world stock trading is very similar to auction house trading from what he's seen. Just much more factors to consider, and obviously stock trading is more similar because you're just trying to flipping in some ways. Definitely, I think you'll find an even closer analog in commodities trading rather than stocks, because stocks as financial instruments, the only reason to buy a stock is because you think the value will go up, whereas there's loads of other reasons to buy items on the auction house. Say any material on the auction house, some people are going to buy it because they think it might go up in the next patch. A lot of people are going to buy it because they're going to craft rank 6 legendaries with them right now, and that's going to be a much larger part of the demand. So there's a lot more fundamental, like this item fills an actual need, an actual use case for something or someone, whereas for pure financial instruments, you're just looking at trying to figure out what the value is going to be in the future, and making some hypothesis of what the value is going to be in the future, or and acting on that, which of course, if you're doing like pure technical analysis, you could probably do very similar things, because at that point you primarily care about the behavior of market participants, and that's going to probably be analogous. But I think that commodities trading is going to be even closer if you're looking at like most of the items sold on the auction house, because most people buy stuff from the auction house, or sell stuff or buy stuff from the auction house because it's useful to them.
Yeah, they're not buying based like speculative value. Like, I'm buying this because I think the value is going to go up. Kind of thing. People buy stuff because
comparatively little.
Yeah. Whereas the real world's stock market, more often these days, is just a bunch of people speculatively buying based on value. And not in all cases, but in many cases.
Yeah,
at least that's what it seems like as an uneducated person here.
A lot of different investment strategies you can follow, obviously, but the main reason to own a stock is obviously because it's gonna potentially, it's valuable. It's a company that can turn a profit, and they can give you that profit either directly through dividends or by reinvesting in the company, making it more valuable down the line, which is like the Amazon way of like just reinvesting literally everything until the stock price goes nuclear.
Yeah, there's some aspects of that too, like which is, I mean, flipping in general is probably a lot more like that, where you buy something because you can buy something just because it's undervalued, right? Like someone put this up way too low. They don't know the true value. But there's also like buying seasonal, mounts or something where based on patterns. And before, you can look at the pattern and see, well, it's down here. I remember you did a episode of your podcast on this. It's down here, but if you look every year, like cycle over cycle, it's going to bounce back, and then you'll be able to, it'll go up in value. So yeah, it is interesting. I definitely know. I don't do any like real world stock trading or anything like that. Something I have an interest in, and I think the more I do this, the more I look at that and think like that'd be fun. But I think it's one of those things too where it's immensely more complicated. There's so many more mechanisms for how those markets move, and with options and all these things, it's just much more complicated. And the economy is so huge, and there's so many more factors. Things can happen that you don't foresee. So it's a much more complicated thing. Maybe one of these days.
You're gonna learn it the same way though. Like the way you're gonna learn it is by starting to spend your money instead of your gold, and making mistakes and learning from them. Like literally, it's just a lot more expensive and risky, potentially risky, depending on, or at least it's more expensive. And a lot more factors to consider. Of course, you can do stuff where you only look at the price. There's a lot of like day trading ideas and stuff. I don't do any trading. I do some long term like buy and hold investing. But there's also the fact that if you're trying to do any sort of investing in the real life, your competition is not like some guy who's running 3 accounts. Your competition is a multi-billion-dollar corporation employing like multiple Harvard-educated, super focused guys, probably on like concentrate better.
It's the American way.
Like it's the like Wolf of Wall Street, except like they're actually smart. And that are spending their entire like 16 hours a day trying to figure out ways of beating you.
Yep.
And that's a lot harder
that's
to beat
what you're up
than,
against.
Than you or me on the WoW markets.
Yeah, and then there's me and all of us basically on our servers competing against like 5 other goblins. It's like that versus odds are a little bit better probably on and WoW. So that's why I think on doing that.
But there's a lot of people who are like I mean I think Hickons is like a day trader or whatever. So there's definitely
he's mentioned that. Yeah. Well, one of these days, maybe I'll graduate from WoW economy and just turn into a stock stream over here.
That's just natural evolution.
Just switch it out on everybody. Probably out. Come watch me lose all my money. Yeah, very cool. I was curious about what your process is looking like. Like how's Shadowlands treating you right now with gold making, and how's that coming along for you? Are you enjoying the new patch, and kind of what does your day-to-day look like when it comes to gold making?
Pretty much just like recrafting rank 4 and 6 legendaries, and
you skip 5 entirely. You don't even restock those.
No, not anymore. They're definitely not worth the Quarthite crystals unless you need to spend a lot more time restocking. And then even on my realm, I'm getting so many below min price on the few rank 5s I still have, are like consistently just showing up below my min price. So they're not even selling. So there's no. I'm not. I have I've always had like the brainless approach to legendary restocking, where like if I'm sold out, then I'll recraft, because even if the price isn't profitable right now, it means it has been profitable at some point in the recent past. So probably eventually someone is going to reset it again, and I can get my sales and my gold back.
Same thing.
But I just do rank. I craft 1 of each of literally every rank if I sell out, and then I craft like 3-4 of each rank 4, and I craft 2 to 3 of each rank 6. But I've so far only done rank 6 for the non-shard of domination slots. I'm thinking about branching out to the others soon, because at this point people will be like done with their main raid legendary, and they'll be in the like, sure, I'll craft a meme legendary in the headpiece, even though that's not best for raid, but like
some utility
shards aren't that good
something.
in M+. So if you want to push keys, for instance, you're probably not going to run 5 shards of domination, because some of them aren't that good.
Really?
And you don't get the set bonuses in M+. So I think that like there's like a real case for like the absolute best M+ builds might have a legendary in a shard of domination slot to get more stats or something. It's possible, at least.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely seeing sales from even stuff that's not, I got my super hot sellers, but I'm selling regularly everything else too. And I just stock an equivalent amount, like just a real light amount in many cases for anything that's really selling below value or below average. I have like a bunch of crazy custom sources, and I essentially just make one and then restock whenever that thing sells. But they move eventually. It's just another thing to have thrown up. Oh, I just logged out. My bad. It's just another thing to have. It's another thing to have thrown up so that it's maybe not. I've thought before, it's like, oh, maybe some of these are selling so slow that I'd be better off throwing up like a glyph, like glyph of lavish servings or something in this slot, because the throttle, of course, limits how much you want to have up on the auction house at any point, right? Yeah. So, but it's there.
So that's the main thing, legendaries, and then I do some chain dial crafter's mark gear as well, mostly because I prospect a lot for the essences. For jewel crafting, and I have to get rid of the gems somehow. It's more profitable to do chain dial gear than anything else with them.
Are you able to get rid of most of your gems that way, or do you end up selling a lot to the vendor?
I have to vendor off a bunch of the red ones, because I do a lot of the chain dial gear. I do a lot of the rings and necklaces, and I use some of the gems for the jewel clusters. But that means that you're guaranteed to end up with like a bunch of excess red gems.
Yeah.
Red.
Are you finding good margins on the Crafter's Mark of the Chain Dial gear for jewel crafting?
Like most of them is like 1,000 to 1,500 gold
That's good.
profit.
Yeah.
And then some stat combinations are super popular and are like selling for 20k profit.
Really? Wow.
Even like a week ago, still I think it was like the haste mastery or some of like the haste mastery combinations were selling for like 28k. So there's
it's always haste. Anytime I go to look for a haste ring or a neck, it's always way more expensive on the auction house than anything else.
It's usually one combination. So like I think if you're doing a lot of it, I think I need to like actually start paying attention to the prices and use some missives to make sure that I always keep the most expensive one in stock, considering how expensive they are compared to the others. But I mean, I have so many gems and thus so many chain dial marks that it's more just of like a volume game. Just get it out onto the auction house. So get rid of them.
Yeah. Huh.
Have
That's
that
good. No, I
crafter.
never got on any of my characters the Crafter's Mark of the Chain Dial. Like I got legendaries and I was like, I'm good, and I just started blasting on that. And I've a few times thought, oh, let me go back and get some of those, but who knows? It might be something that maybe would have been slightly better to have that instead of some of the maybe lower volume legendaries. Hard to say for sure.
It's it was a lot of work though. You had to do Korthia up to tier 4 with the Archivist Codex.
I got a few of them to tier 3, but I think around the time I got a few of them to tier 3 was when I got my legendaries or the Vested Origins.
Yeah,
so
it was the same week.
And
I got the chain dial mark. I think, it was the same week that you could get it like a couple of days before the vestige. That was like the best possible case for getting the Crafter's Mark of the chain dial. And for the first couple of weeks, it was absolutely like.
Yeah,
I think the first week I sold gear for 2.2 mil, and I was not like doing this hardcore. Every time I ran a post scan, I was like 300k gold, with just like, I don't know how many items I had, 150, something like that.
Yeah. It's something I definitely like look back. I think no matter how much you do goal making, you're always going to have that FOMO feeling of like, oh, what about that market? Oh, what about that market? And like, oh, maybe if I was a little more optimized, I'd do this instead. It's definitely one of those ones that I looked back kind of like, oh man, I wish I could have done that. But then I analyze at the same time, like the time I had available and what I was using my time for. And it's like, it's so hard. And it's kind of fun. What makes it fun is you have to kind of have a plan and take a position. And go for execute your strategy, and you can't do all the strategies, right? You kind of have to choose what you're going to get done, and you never really know. There's always this like, oh, what if, and who knows? But I maybe in the future we'll get it, and I know that rings and necks were profitable for just the 168s into 9.0. So I'm sure that this Crafter's Mark of the Chain Owl will continue to be good as well. So
this has been like one of my main markets in general for professions, like the last even all the way since Mists of Pandaria. I did a lot of crafted PvP catch-up gear they had in that expansion. Legion, I did all of like the crafted gear that you upgraded with a Blitzrum. Did all of the scrap 1 million bracers to get the Expulsum gear in BFA. Those markets, but the scrapper, I mean, it was dull as hell, but like it was so profitable.
Yeah, because no one wanted to do it.
Profitable.
It's what it did, because no one wanted to do it until the end. Like when I was doing it, at least on my server at the end in BFA, like I was pulling a margin of like on average like not even 1,000, and I'd have to scrap so much to get it. It ultimately just did not become. Once I got Vial of the Sands and was doing the Panthers and some like high value enchants and stuff, I just kind of abandoned the scrapper, because I just kind of the same thing. I just couldn't be bothered with it. I was just like, oh, I can't do this anymore. I'm so tired of it.
I scrapped 800 Expulsum on like the last day of BFA, the evening before Shadowlands launched. I was
madman.
I was getting rid of my last Tidespelin, and I wanted to have a stockpile for the ATVs so I could craft those.
Oh yeah. I'm still, by the way, sitting on like a mammoth amount of monolite ore and storm silver ore. I haven't sold the single bit since you caused the what do you call it? You always joked and said that you caused you manipulated the markets, something like that. I haven't sold a single one.
The ATV prices finally increased on Draenor. Finally, Might be worth
Finally.
starting to post them again.
Yeah, I better get that off the books though eventually, because at some point people will get nostalgic for BFA and go back and farm it or something. So I better get that stuff moving pretty soon.
But yeah. The point is that like the crafted catch-up style, or crafted like not useful for mains but very useful for leveled alts and stuff. Those kinds of gear markets, I've just had so much success with them over the last like 3 expansions. I absolutely love them. So I knew that I just had to have the chain dial recipe, because I've been in general having a lot of success in that market. It seems to really fit well with like my posting patterns and what I like to get out of like a market. They're not as competitive as stuff like alchemy or even legendaries. Legendaries are so profitable anyway, like the price is so high that it's worth being in the competitive market. But like the chain dial market is just so chill compared to that. You just craft, you run your post scan like once a day or twice a day, and at the end of the week you have like a nice little mailbox. And if you want to go hardcore, you obviously can, but there's no point in going hardcore there when you can go hardcore on rank 6 legendaries.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. Yeah, very true. Very true. Well, that segues kind of nicely too into the next topic, which we kind of sort of already covered it, but it overlaps nicely. But it's just kind of something I've been trying to do, is just talk about what's like kind of working, what's not working. And I think you kind of already summed up a little bit of my thoughts on the rank 5s. Definitely I'm seeing way slower rank 5 sells. I think you said you're just kind of skipping it entirely. I do still sell them. I do think I'm going to regret that a little bit. Not entirely. Like I've made, I think, plenty from them, but this week's going to be a bit of a bummer, because Korthite, at least on my realm, I don't know if it's been like yours, but my realm's Korthite's dropping pretty significantly right now. It's down about 20% in the last few days. And so everything that all the rank 5s that I crafted, the mat cost, is just like 20%. That's like 30,000 gold or something for those things. So I'm definitely going to lose a little bit on those. So those definitely not working. Don't think it means don't sell them at all, but it is riskier when you invest a bunch in slower moving items, and that's certainly the case. So that's something I then I went back to selling some of the, I finally got some time in my routine to go back and restock on vials and panthers, and trying to get back into a few of the real good old world staples. Yeah. And I found, as usual, when I kind of transitioned back to those markets like I did in 9.0, I find fantastic margins because no one's doing them, and you kind of come back and Vial of the Sands is selling for like 25K profit and, sells well. So those are looking good, at least on my end. But what about you, Lazy? Did you find anything this week that was good for you or bad for you?
No, not really. Korthite gold prices are staying up pretty much on my realm. They're the same. Like my average, I haven't bought a crazy amount since I've been on vacation, so I've just spent 1 gold cap on Korthite crystals. But it's my average cost is like 2,079, and the current market value and min buyout is 2,100. So like it's pretty much the same as it's been. No real change, but I expect it's gonna start falling soon, because everyone has their number 1 rank 6. They're done with that. So any further rank 6s, or everyone who really cared about getting a rank 6 early has their now, because they have the Soul Cinders. They have probably bought it because the people who are buying these are the people who care enough about whatever end game activity they're playing that they want to have the maximum eye level they can. So I expect it to start falling, but I still expect it to be profitable for pretty much as long as rank 4 and rank 3 and rank 2 legendaries were in patch 9.0, which means until 9.2.
Yeah, exactly. It'll be good the whole time, I bet.
But obviously falling margins. I mean, you're going to make less, probably in both relative and absolute terms at the end of the patch. You might need to draw down your pricing to reflect that. But
I agree with that too. Definitely feels like, a lot. It seems like Legendaries kind of caught a lot of people off guard for some reason. 9.0, which I don't think it should have, but it did. It seemed like the people were surprised that they were making so much off them. I mean, you were there day one. You knew what to do. You knew those were going to be good. You were involved in that market, and me too. But I would find, comments sometimes about people just doubting that the Legendaries are going to be good, which seemed silly but now I think everyone knows. Like coming into 9.1, there was no secret. There was no mystery. There was no, I think, confusion about whether or not people would want 9.1. Well, I heard some people say they were going to be too expensive, but they still sell.
There's also the case like in 9.0 it was the case of like is it going to be worth it to level your recipes? That was maybe the question. Like, I mean, it's obvious that the demand for something that is literally best selling, best in slot gear straight up on the auction house you can only get it from professions. You're gonna make money with that always.
Yeah,
there's never the case that you're not gonna make money with that. But obviously you had to have the pockets and the guts to level,
pony up
the
a fortune
smarts to prioritize the right recipes potentially, which is something that you could have saved a lot of gold on, particularly early on, like ignoring the bad leather and mail recipes, for instance. If you'd done your research there, I mean, you could probably have saved millions. There's literally no point in leveling most of the mail recipes, for instance, during the first couple of weeks. The only ones you should have done was shoulders, boots, and maybe one more.
Yeah, absolutely.
And all the others were just not worth it, because while you get some sales, you just didn't get enough, and you could have just waited until you didn't have to pay 1,200 per heavy calicide.
Yep, very true. Get there smarter.
So it took a really long time for me to break even on leatherworking, whereas like tailoring was a lot better because it was so cheap. So everyone was like, yeah, I'll just upgrade my legendary whenever I can. Whenever I get more soul ash, I'll just upgrade it because it's not as expensive. Whereas for leatherworking, it was like, am I going to pay 50k this week and then another 60k next week? No, I'm not. If you're a casual player, like, you're not going to do that.
Yeah.
Because getting the relative item level bump this week is just not that valuable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you're very unlikely for that to like have a huge impact on killing a raid boss or whatever you're going to use that item level for.
Which brings me back around. So you mentioned earlier the rank 5s you stopped, but like it kind of on that reasoning, like for some of the higher volumes, like the capes and the rings and stuff, I would imagine you would get, all of us will be seeing sales in rank 5s. I mean, I think I see
sales. You'll see sales, just not that many. It's going to be the same.
Yeah, not nearly as many as the 6s. I agree.
It's going to be the same as like rank 2 and 3 leatherworking stuff was during like 9.0 or early 9.0, where like some people will have the gold and care enough about their performance to upgrade as soon as they can, but like it's 1 week. You're delaying. If you wait 1 week, then you get enough soul cinders to go straight to rank 6. So then you save whatever the cost of vestige is, roughly, or plus the cost of a rank 3. So that's like what, at least 120, 130k probably.
Yeah,
that you don't have to pay. And the only downside is you have 12 item levels less, or 14 item levels less on your legendary for 1 more week. And you, like, unless you were doing like world first rating level or like top 50 world rating, I don't think that item level is ever going to be the difference between you reaching your in-game goals or not. So at that point, it's just like, okay, if you're rich, then you might do it because you're rich. But if you're not rich, then there's literally no point in getting a rank 5 legendary as a buyer.
And even more so as the weeks go on, right? Because there's no pressure to get the content done. You don't really need that extra 1 week, right? So it's probably going to keep dropping more and more. If you're not already seeing it low, it's going to get even lower.
I was super surprised. I was watching like this warlock content creator, because I made a warlock called Amasi, and he had crafted a rank 5 legendary, and he'd like spent the first week casting the race to world first with limit. So he'd like and his guild was like, it's like 5 of 10 now, so they're just now getting to the hard boss, the first hard boss, Painsmith. So it's like you could have just waited until now and just went straight for a rank 6 for when you get to something where your performance actually starts meaningfully mattering. For like the first bosses of raids are always just about learning the mechanics, and they're almost never hard enough that, or tuned hard enough that performance is going to matter. So I mean, obviously, sure, if you're like a min-maxer and you have the resources either in game or just because you have make enough gold, or not gold, make enough money that you'll buy tokens. I mean, it's 1 token probably for a rank 5 legendary, so for a lot of people that will make sense as well. And
it was funny for me is like I don't know, and you might be the same, I don't know. we have plenty of gold, me and you. Like, we don't have to worry about it. I would probably never buy a rank 5. Like, I would never do it.
Yeah, I didn't buy one either.
Because it feels like it's wasteful. It just feels wasteful, right? And a lot of the gold making is not being wasteful and being efficient. And I'd look, my brain looks at that and would just be like, nah, I ain't doing this. That's like throwing away gold. And I don't do hardcore PvE content, so I don't really need it in the first place. But I mean, if I did, I would skip the rank 5 hands down.
Yeah, I'm mythic rating at the moment, but I was on vacation from most of July, which meant that I was like every once in a while like making a raid, because I went home like a couple of times, and when we were close by, like I went home one night so I could just get in one stream and get some more YouTube content out. So I got in. So I knew that I wouldn't be raiding regularly until I could until I had the rank 6 anyway. But even then, I still wouldn't have bothered with a rank 5. The value proposition is just so bad. It's like you're literally just setting fire to 40 quartzite crystals, essentially.
Burn it down.
Which is fine if you want to.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's fine if you want to, but it's literally pointless.
Yeah. Sir Borges Borg in chat here wants to know what your progress is so far. I guess I'm mythic. Your mythic raid.
Yeah, we're 310. So we killed the 9 yesterday for the first time.
Nice. Congrats.
We're on in a very casual 2 day a week. Or we're obviously in a casual time commitment guild, so we're two nights a week. So we got ahead of the curve last week as well. That was fun. My kids,
that's good.
We had put my kids to bed, and then they were both like acting out at the same time. So I just ditch their.
You will be grounded.
I have to run. I have to run. Kid emergency. And then I get back. And I get back, and I jumped off the platform on that pole, and then I came back, and they were on the next pole, and I was still dead down at the floor. So they were pulling with like one less player. And my body didn't get teleported, and I never got into combat, and they killed it on that pull. So like the boss died, but I didn't get credit.
No, dude, that's the worst. Oh, so you didn't get it. You got to go back and do it again.
No, I mean, I ended up just like, okay, fuck it. I would have gotten the kill.
Counts.
I'm just gonna buy the boost to get the game.
Oh yeah, to get the boost. Yeah,
I didn't have the time to get the kill. I was like, okay, I'll just have to pay.
You had the more
500K.
important boss. You had the more important boss to handle, the family boss. When my kids
get older, I'll have to teach them how to make gold for me, and they owe me now 500K.
You owe me. Oh, that's hilarious. That's awesome. Nice. Okay. Well, moving on to another topic that was really funny. Just kind of a couple things that came up with it this week. There's not really much gold making news that's been going on. But there was this last week, the anima thing that happened, which is you can exchange. It's ridiculous, like 25,000 anima for what is it, like 5 quartzite crystals?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think it's something like that, 5 or 6 quartzite crystals. I forget. And I looked at that and thought that's silly. Like, this isn't going to affect it. Then I started seeing like quartzite tumbling, and I started kind of wondering, because I was seeing lots of like the stair steps where these people would have 5 put it up for like 200 gold undercut, and I was starting to see a stair stepping where it was just like 5, 5, 5, 5, and I kept buying it back up, but it kept dropping. So part of me, I thought this isn't going to affect quartzite prices. And then yesterday, as it was just tumbling with all these like stair steps, I started to wonder, maybe it is, or I think probably it could be like it often is, a combination of factors of demand decreasing as well. But that was kind of something. What do you think? Do you think that going to have any effect? It doesn't sound like it's affected you at all, at least.
I doubt that's going to have like a particularly meaningful economic effect, or it might be like a one-time infusion thing, where like some of the people who are actually like finished with anima are going to do it. But I think like most people who are, you have to be quite the grinder to be like finished with anima, even though it's like raining anima right now in Korthia, obviously. So it's like gonna be and it's not that much. Like how
200,000
get like 5 extra quartzite per day if you like hardcore grinding anima. Maybe
you'd have to get 25,000 quartzite or 25,000 anima each day to do that. Like, no, I don't think anyone's getting that much. That
it's gonna be like a week maybe for someone who's like not hardcore grinding, and even then, like, that's terrible gold per hour, so it's like not worth it. It's just a way to get rid of all the free anima you get by doing Korthia. But I think that
it could also be people offloading.
Yeah,
like their anima caps and they're just offloading their anima, you know?
Yeah.
But I wouldn't expect that to last long, even if it did for the week. You know,
I think
everyone's
the
gonna exhaust all their anima.
demand effect of like legendary demand falling is just gonna completely overshadow.
That's the biggest one.
And obviously the fact that Korthite supply just from like Ledger or just from people doing Korthia is just also gonna they're gonna keep flowing in. Obviously, people are still gonna do Korthia. People, you sort of feel compelled to do the weekly chores, even if you don't care that much about any of the rewards. Like there's mounts, there's stuff to get. People are gonna keep doing it for a while. There's still like the story campaign. Are you gonna play through? You gotta do the weekly for renown if you're, or at least this week. I think after that you don't really need renown anymore. If you're just into min maxing, then you don't care about that anymore. But most people care about other things as well.
Yeah. So someone here in chat, Kuhani, says that it's only 5k, about 5k anima per day in Korthia, but that's only one extra crystal per day. So yeah, it's not a big, and that's, you have to work for that. It's not like it's just for free crystal. That's like if you grind all day in Korthia, which, you know, like you said, not everyone's going to do that.
Yeah, so I think, obviously it's going to bring in slightly more Korthite, but we're still gonna like be in a position where we're gradually just gonna end up with more Korthite than we spend, because people are gonna craft fewer rank 6s and rank 5s at the rune carver. Of course, many people, I think I ended 9.0 with like 4 or 5 maybe rank 4 legendaries on my main before I just I'm surprised I kept going that long with the Soul Ash before I just like, I'm not gonna do Torghast anymore this patch.
Yeah, you were just over it.
I'm done. And I had a couple of lower ranked legendaries as well. I had a lot of legendaries.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I kind of agree with that. I don't think it will have a big effect. If it's having any effect this week, I definitely think it's gonna people are gonna spend their anima, and it's just gonna not be, it's gonna be back to the just normal. But it has tumbled quite a bit over here. I'm curious to see if it will tumble for you, or maybe, you know, because like someone brought up one time the difference between the EU token's real high, and then your Korthite's much lower than us, and our token's much lower, and our Korthite was much higher. So it's funny how the markets kind of end up that way, and it's hard to say exactly why it is. But I do wonder if yours isn't dropping, but ours is. You know, US versus EU. If it's kind of like a market correction thing happening, as like whatever was, you know, keeping that price buoyed up is causing it to fall.
Yeah,
but I don't know what that would be.
No. Well, it's also obviously going to be an effect on like what kind of realm you're on. Where I'm on a very high pop realm with a lot of raiders. So
same with me in my realms. Yeah, same exact thing. But we were kind of averaging Korthite around 2,700 until recently. Now it's dropping down at about 2,200 ish. So we lost about 20% of the value over just about 24, 36 hours. So it was interesting to see it fall that fast.
That's a drop off.
Yeah, other servers probably, you know, lower populations maybe didn't see the same thing, but that's at least what I've seen on, and I saw that not just on one. It was I'm on 3 servers simultaneously, all full pops, so similar, but all of them were tumbling at the same time. So it wasn't just an isolated event.
It definitely seems like at least the EU quantity has gone up quite a bit over the last couple of days for Korthite. So we might see. Like, because we're obviously past peak demand, so at this point it's just got one way to go, and it's downwards.
Yeah.
The only question is really how fast.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
The inevitable slow decline of like literally every market in the game over the timeline of an expansion, and you have some brief periods where they blast back up when new patches come out and with new recipes and new raids and all that jazz.
Where do you think, on that note, where do you think, like, just this is obviously guessing, right, at this point, but where would you imagine the floor of Korthite will be? Like, come the end of 9.1, 9.2 is about to come. Where do you think the low point for Korthite will be, at least in your neck of the woods?
Wouldn't be surprised to see, like, maybe rank 6s are, like, as cheap as, maybe, like, approaching like the price of what rank 4s were selling at the end of this patch, or at the end of 9.0, maybe as cheap as that. It all depends on, so that would make them very cheap. Like, could they go like maybe not that cheap, maybe a little bit more, but like a couple of hundred gold. It depends. They're probably not going to be used in 9.2 legendary crafting. I'd expect, because they always like to have you playing the patch and not having to do content from the last patch. So they're probably going to be like very low value. Might even add another currency for Torghast. That would mean like rank 5s and 6s are going to be like completely left in the dust. No one's going to bother with those. Because then Korthite would probably just be rare again. Might go up in price, because that's the only way to get rank 5s and 6s, and no one's doing Korthia in 9.2. Or they drop from everywhere like Stygia does now. Who knows?
Yeah. My best guess as far as using patterns is like, you look at something like heavy callicides, which are one of the most expensive of all the materials for legendaries. It started out, at least on my region servers, it was around 1,000, a little over 1,000, like 1,200 sometimes, but about 1,000 the first couple weeks, and then ended up parking somewhere around 200. So you had 80% of the value lost. And so you look at Korthite for that, and I wouldn't be surprised to see it somewhere around the 500 or a little over the 500 gold mark by the time of the end of it.
I wouldn't be surprised to see Korthite falling further.
Even further. Okay.
Yeah, because Callicide, you knew that Callicide was going to be useful in the next patch.
That's true. And if there's no demand for that.
At the end of the 9.0 life cycle, you started to have people
stocking
for 9.1.
Good point.
And I don't expect we'll see people stock Korthite crystals for 9.2. I think we'd rather see people panic dumping them.
We could drop even lower. Could get dirt cheap.
So I think you could very well see them like have a lower, even larger relative drop off compared to the peak price.
Could ultimately be a bit of a market there. If people are dumping them for that cheap, you just grab it and then just sell some really, really cheap crafting cost rank 6s to people when rank 7s are incredibly expensive. And like we saw with 4s, right? 4s went through the roof at the start of 9.1 before rank 5s were available. And also even after rank 5s were available, people were probably looking at the price and was like, I'll just take a rank 4.
And the fact that people were swimming in Soul Ash, and a lot of people needed or wanted some of the new legendaries. The Covenant legendaries.
So they had to buy the base items.
So I crafted a new rank 4 legendary for the Covenant one, or the Covenant legendary for my Warlock, because it's good for M+. So probably a lot of that. Might see the same thing for rank 6.
Yeah, and there could be, Mantheus brings up in chat too, that there always is the option they do the Legion thing and allow you to equip your second legendary in 9.2, which of course will have big effects on the markets.
And then Andrew in my chat was like, Korthite's going to drop until it's more profitable, or it's profitable to craft a rank 2 with a Vestige of Origin to get a rank 4. Because you can do that.
Oh, good point. I didn't think of that. I'm trying to skip ahead. Find like a market utilization there.
That's like the absolute floor is probably like the price difference between rank 2 and 4. But for the most expensive one, then maybe. Well, it'll be interesting to see where it goes. Surely it's going to keep going down week over week. That much I think we can all expect. Yeah. So definitely don't overstock on stuff, because you want to basically, at least that's my strategy, is craft it and just get it, sell it. The sooner you sell it, the better. So you don't end up holding an item that the crafting cost goes way down on it, and then you're getting undercut and you have to sell it below your crafting cost. Yeah.
You don't want that. Yeah. All right. Well, good. And then there was a topic, we were talking a little bit beforehand, and you brought up a topic that I thought was a really good one, which is the idea about effort and prep versus knowledge. I'm going to write this in here in the title, but what did you mean by that?
No, it's just I mentioned it earlier, like that you were like, when you're talking about like how I was very, from your perspective, I was very knowledgeable about gold making, and you've learned a lot from me. And then obviously you've taken a lot of the ideas that a lot of the things you've learned from me and applied them and reached much greater heights in gold totals. It's just a point that like, if you really, really want to get rich, then you have to have both. Like you have to have the knowledge, which it's a lot easier to get from others, and then you have to have the be willing to put in the effort and do stuff like what you've done with like preparing legendaries on multiple different realms, and utilizing tools like having multiple accounts. If you really, really want to get rich in WoW, then you have to be willing to get the second account eventually.
Yeah.
It's such a game changer, but it's more just a point of like, I really, really, really enjoy the conceptual side of gold making, of like figuring out new markets. I don't necessarily enjoy like the drudgery of
cancel scanning, the joy of cancel scanning,
or crafting every day, or just restocking. I really like playing the game for the game,
yeah,
obviously, and I think that it's just because we exemplify like in some ways maybe the extremes of like you're putting in a huge amount of effort and reaping, relative to me at least, I'm assuming you are based. I mean, I've popped into your stream with like four accounts open at the same time and crafting legendaries or cancel scanning on all of them, which is on a completely different level to what I'm doing effort wise. And that's how it is. Like you need to have both parts, and I think the idea was really just like to highlight that you have to have both. If you really want to get rich, you need both the ideas and the willpower to keep grinding at it. It's definitely a long game. So that's I know myself. Like I get bored eventually if I have to do the same thing over and over and over again. So I'm just like, I'm not going to do it. I'm happy not doing it.
And I haven't been doing this as long as you, but I will say that I've been doing this for about a year and a half, right, since I started. And I definitely have done this with a lot of focus. Like this has been my main hobby, right? And all other hobbies excluded pretty much. So that's definitely helped. I've been able to put a lot of time. I almost want to put into effort prep versus knowledge/children. That too. Because I know I look at you too, and I'm like, I realize like, man, I learned so much from you. And sure, maybe the numbers, the gold numbers have gone up, but definitely I get so much insight about what I do from people like you and others as well. Not, but you definitely had probably the biggest influence. But yeah, being able to commit more time to it's always gonna, yield more results. Like it's you're more of the work smarter, not harder. And I don't claim to be the smartest person, but I definitely try to listen and learn as much as I can from the people who I know their stuff. And then I just even go harder on top of that. So it's like, hey, take their knowledge and then apply it, and just go real hard. However, that being said, I do agree that I've only been doing this so long. I don't think I could do this for like years and years. I think I would get to a point where I'd just be bored in tears of cancel scanning and just like not able to handle it anymore. My motivation's high right now. Will it be that way, next calendar year and the calendar year after that? Probably not. I think I'll probably eventually be joining you in the minimal effort, maximum reward mindset. I did all that in Chatlands. Like I'm good. I don't want to do that again.
I miss BOE flipping in Legion. That was like the absolute dream market. Literally spend 5 minutes on a realm every day, or per realm per day, and at the end of the week you literally made millions.
Yeah, I definitely will. I think I see myself transitioning more in the future away from this kind of like heavy cancel scanning, commodities, consumables, legendaries, whatever it is, and moving to those more slow flipping markets that just don't require as much work.
It was all about the mental effort of like figuring out what was a good deal. I'm thinking I've ever had as much fun as I did flipping BOEs and BFA and Legion in terms of gold making. I had something I wanted to say, but it's completely vanished out of my head again.
It'll come back to you. It always does, right? The minute you stop thinking about it is when it comes back to you.
Yeah.
I don't know what the phenomenon is there with that, but that's the thing. But no, it's a really good, and I tell people all the time too in stream, I'm like, just go, always try to listen to what other people in the community are doing, especially yourself, with your content. Like your blog is so good, your podcast is so good, your streams, extremely helpful. Has been helpful to me. It's helped me a bunch, in my growth. And I always tell people like, in my chat, like, hey, go watch Lazy. He's a really smart guy. I've learned so much from him. But it definitely helps. And then you can take those principles and the points that other people and other creators are putting out there. And, it's always good to look at what others are doing and learn from other people. It's a very community driven, kind of institutional knowledge here.
Yeah.
So I've enjoyed that a lot. That's helped me a lot. And then besides that, I've just committed a lot more hours. Like I kind of look at, I know you have children, you create a lot of content. That takes time to make the content, to write blogs and to make a podcast. All that stuff takes a lot of time and effort to do. Until recently, I wasn't doing content. I was just only, I was watching your content while cancel scanning is what I was doing. So, but yeah, it definitely committing more hours will always yield results. But I do think that you can work smarter instead of harder. You can get, better results by just doing it smarter, but you can also do smarter and harder.
It came back to me. It came back to me when we're talking about working smarter, and that's the idea that like the less time you have, the more it matters to do the kind of not necessarily to do gold per hour calculations, but to do like the min-maxing of spending your time only on the highest value markets. So that's something I do a lot of as well, such as like what I talked about earlier, where I don't do Crafters Mark III. It's profitable, but it's just not worth the time because the sale rate is not as high. It's a lot less gold per item. So I'm spending the same amount of time reposting it, the same amount of time crafting it, and moving it around between my alts as a chain dial gear. And when I get the sale, it's a lot less gold, and thus a lot less profit as well in terms of raw gold profit. And since I'm not capped, my gold total does not limit me in any way. It doesn't make sense to focus on profit margin, and that's something that is also going to matter a lot. Like the less time you have, the less tools you have in terms of multiple accounts and multiple crafters, the more you should focus on min-maxing your time if you want to make gold. Like do only the highest value thing you can do. Don't do anything else, and that's where knowledge really is useful. Because when you don't have the ability to like put in a lot of effort, that's where you really have to focus on making the optimal economic decisions. And it's a very interesting thing because like the more time you have to devote to something like this, it's super obvious in another game I play, Escape from Tarkov, where like the best players in the game are all terrible at the economy in the game because they don't have to be, because they're so good at like just getting out with the loads of loot. So they don't need to be. But whereas if you're really bad and play 2 hours every week, then you can get so much mileage out of being good at the economy. And it's sort of the same thing with gold making. Like the more time you have, the less it matters if you're doing like optimal decisions, as long as you're making like above average ones. And it's the same. So the less time you have, the less effort you can put in, the more effort you should try to put into making sure that you're doing as optimal stuff as you can.
That's funny because I even heard you. I think you kind of brought that up a little bit in your last episode of before you went on your vacation, your last episode of your podcast. But I do the exact same thing, but I use it in a completely different way. Where I'm like, that's basically why I'm on 4 servers. It's like, okay, same concept, limited time, but limited time is not for me as limited as your time. I have, frankly speaking, more time. But then I do the same thing, and like, okay, how can I take that same thing and put that into, maybe you have 2 hours and I have 6 hours, right? But I do the same thing. How can I make those 6 hours the most valuable 6 hours as I can, which is a lot of how I came to my current 9.1 strategy, which was I was actually selling on one server. I had 2 auction house accounts to get around the throttle. One was doing all the legendaries. One was doing everything else, glyphs, enchants, old world market stuff. The legendary one was pulling in 95% of my income. The other one, 5%. And so I just decided, let me cut off the second one entirely, just get rid of that, liquidate all those things, and instead open up more legendary servers and just do the exact same thing, but on multiple servers. So kind of is taking that same concept of the efficiency, but applying it on a more maximal scale of okay.
Obviously, that's also something that's maybe sometimes a little bit overlooked. Like you have to adapt to yourself. Adapt any strategy to yourself, to your circumstances, to your playstyle, to whatever actually turns out to work for you in terms of reposting frequency. How much should you stock? That's like for the longest time, I never included crafting operations in any of my settings that I shared with people, because the answer to how much should I craft is unique to you personally. There's no one correct answer to that question. It all depends on how many items. Like the correct answer is like however many, so that you just barely don't run out until the next time you restock. And that's something you have to like experiment your way into. That's like the optimal is to just have barely enough until the next time you're restocking. That's the economical optimal amount, because that means that you're not wasting gold on excess inventory that you're not selling.
And that's a hard thing to figure out. Like even if you use a metric like DB region sold per day, it's going to be different for everyone based on how much time you spend cancel scanning in your day and how much, the
best way is to just start.
It's good, very personal.
Craft one of each of everything that's profitable, and then whenever something sells, you craft 2 of it.
Yep.
Or
until you
depending
find
on
you
the
have
item,
you
though.
have too much left over, and then scale
when
it
you
back. You
start
need to or
having
stop.
when they're left over the next time you're crafting, if you haven't run out, then okay, then you need to craft less. But you don't really have to codify this. Just like craft up to a certain level when you recraft. It's what I do. I take I take the approach where I don't have to think about it consciously, except of like, okay, I only have 2 of this legendary and I want to have 3 of them. Because that's what my spreadsheet says. Or I still use the legendary stock tracker sheet. Although you could make a crafting operation now, but I'd have to make it separately for like every slot. I'd have to make a even more convoluted group setup. So I can't be bothered with that. It doesn't take that long for just legendaries.
I went with the most convoluted setup I possibly could for this one. I did an entire stream on a day that was, I swear, the most boring stream I ever did. It was like 5 hours of just the most tedious setting up like 80 custom sources across, which are fun because those don't share across your TSM accounts. And I have 4. So I had to like copy it into 4 different accounts. And I swear I was like apologizing to my community the whole time. I'm so sorry you guys have to watch this. Like, this is terrible. Like 5 hours of me. But essentially it's custom sources that every week, it takes about a half hour, but I record through the TSM ledger how much I've sold of everything across all the servers, like total sum. And then I see what I'm selling less of and what I'm selling more of. Like I can average out, okay, my average, I think the last one, average slot, I sold 15. And so I created all of these custom sources. And if it's over 15, then I quantify how much over 15, 2 times over, 3 times over. And then I have custom sources that tell me, what's my average amount, but then I shift the average based on how much extra it sells or how much less than normal it sells. So it's definitely complicated. It was a big headache to set up, but I think in retrospect I wouldn't do it again. I'm there now, so I'm happy with it. But if I had to do that all over again, like if TSM crashed, I think I'd just use DB region sold per day and call it a day. Just be like, I'm not doing that again. That was ridiculous. So but yeah, there's different ways. I definitely think the way I did it was complicated. I would have loved if there had been, and maybe it's something we'll see in the future. I think DB region sold per day is a 60-day unweighted average. And so I wasn't getting that like 9.1 data in there. So that's why I felt like I had to go with a custom source method using my sales data. But in the future, who knows, that might change. And then definitely once we're at least 60 days or close to 60 days in the 9.1, that will be returning a really more accurate, that source of how much to stock up that people can use. But of course, they have to kind of factor in their play style into that. Still, there's no one size fits all crafting operation, like you said.
Yeah.
So, yeah, very, very good. No, it's good. It's a good point and a good topic. So I appreciate you bringing that up. So, it's actually been, we actually crossed the hour mark. That went really fast. I'm shooting to keep these things 1 hour long so they don't go endlessly. I'm surprised because we wrote down some other topics, but that definitely shot on by.
Yeah.
So no, I definitely appreciate it, and I'll probably stop it right there so we don't go too long.
Yeah.
And have other stuff for future weeks. But I'm definitely planning, in case you guys are joining for the first time and doing this from my stream or from Lazy Stream, wherever you may be, or watching on YouTube or a VOD later on. This is something I'm doing weekly, except for possibly the next 2 weeks because I'm going on my first vacation in like 2 years. So I can't guarantee that I'm going to be able to keep it going the next 2 weeks. But after that, when we come back, I have someone lined up. So it should be good. But if you're joining, that's what this is all about. And we definitely have more topics. We'll be rotating through different goal makers, content creators that do this kind of thing, and definitely enjoyed having you on, Lazy. Thanks so much. Would love to kind of rotate back and have you on again here in the future.
It was a lot of fun. That's why we're 15 minutes over time at least.
Yeah. It's funny because like goal making is such a solo, in so many ways it's a solo activity, right? But it's really fun when you get to sit down and kind of collaborate with someone else and kind of see into their process and their mindset and how they think and do things. You learn a lot from that too, I think.
I was just gonna say one thing because we started on a lot of like unrelated stuff to you about Norway and US, and you're saying you're on your first vacation in 2 years, and that's so like stereotypically American from like from a Scandinavian perspective, where like if you don't take 3 hours of summer vacation, you're looked at weirdly, like why
3 months?
Why 3 weeks?
3 weeks.
You have mandatory 5 weeks of vacation if you have a full-time job. Like
I love the European mindset of vacation. Like the European know how to vacation. Like we do not. Like, and do you call it vacation or holidays?
Vacation, probably.
Vacation. That's only a British thing, the holidays thing, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, just curious. I just had to know that.
But
okay.
Yeah, that's the other meme of like European out of office messages versus American ones. Like European out of office messages. I'm on vacation. I will not answer the email for any reason. And it's like American out of office messages. I have the day off because I'm having surgery. I'll try to answer any emails as soon as I'm out of anesthesia. Hopefully you can live with being out of touch with you for like 2 hours. Like that's so different, the work culture. It's very interesting.
You're very right. And I mean, I will say I usually go on vacations regularly several times throughout the year, but the pandemic was the thing, right? Is like I just basically didn't travel because the extra risks and everything. And now that I'm myself and my family, we're all vaccinated, we're going to be getting together to do some stuff. So that's kind of why it's finally happening. So I'm looking forward to that. But only 2 weeks, and I'll be answering all my work emails, guys, in case you said no. No, there was a lot of fun. I really appreciate it, Lazy. And there's people here too in chat. I can tell there people are like, oh, can we get Lazy's stream info? So we got people over here who maybe don't know you. So where can they find you?
The main hub is like thelazygoldmaker.com, where I post 2 times a week currently. Text-based content, actually text-based guides, which is not super popular in not popular among content creators, I should say. I also have a YouTube channel, and I stream on twitch.tv/lazygoldmaker. Not that often at the moment, since I'm back to my day job for a while. But it looks like I'll be able to actually go full-time content creator by the end of 2021, most likely.
Oh, that's awesome. So living the dream, man.
Yeah. But for now, so probably I'll be streaming like 1 day a week, and then focusing on YouTube and the blog for the moment, since that's much easier to do as sort of a when I have time sort of thing, whereas Twitch is definitely as many hours in a row as you can. So yeah, that's where you find. Obviously, I don't think did I make a cool? I don't think I have a cool YouTube link yet.
Oh, you just hit 1,000? Did you just hit 1,000? I think I checked that the other day. I was like, oh man, you cleared 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. So congratulations on that too. It's a nice milestone.
So I've actually been, throughout the summer, I've been pushing out like a video every weekday, and I'm gonna try to keep it at least like three to 5 videos a week, with a bunch of stuff, everything from like case studies to market reviews to whatever I feel like talking about, TSM tips.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, you have, like I've said a bunch in the episode, but really fantastic stuff. Helped me more than anybody else. So it's been an honor to have you. I definitely encourage everybody that's not already kind of following you and keeping up with your blog and your podcast. If you can make the time for it, it's really good info. Really, really good info. I can't endorse it hard enough. So definitely check it out. And yeah, I appreciate you so much. It was fun to hang out with you and visit a little bit. Keep up the good work, because it's making me richer. So
yeah, I mean, you should
keep it coming.
We have to give it back, of course, as well. Like, if any of you are not familiar with Dirty, you should definitely check out his stuff as well. Like, he is on the subject of like actually scaling gold making methods. Like, he's the current wizard, right? And I think your YouTube video on where you did the analysis of legendaries before 9.1 was like really well done and in depth. So definitely check out this YouTube channel as well.
Thanks. Yeah, I appreciate that shout out a lot. Yeah, that video was fun to make. It was definitely, hopefully, a preview of things to come. I'm working on another bigger project that'll be I want to do more of a multi-series kind of project of what I've kind of learned, summing it up. So I want to kind of do it in that same style. So I'm working on something, been writing some scripts for that for a few weeks. So yeah, I really appreciate it. All right. Well, this has been great, and I'll look forward to having you on again here in the future. I'm going to keep streaming. I think you're still streaming too, also. So guys, feel free to go wherever you want from here. But I'll still be on for a little while, and then later on there'll be there'll be the VOD of this. But of course, I think will be some YouTube content. I think probably from the both of us on this one. So if you're not following either of us on YouTube, you should be following both of us on YouTube. Go follow us, so you can get that.
I mean,
all right. Thanks so much, Lazy.